Thank you. Have a nice day.
It's waiting.
There is someone in the house and he is killing everybody.
We've been waiting for this day to come along.
Please get me out! Oh, somebody take this, please! Please don't leave me with her! Please get me out!
Now we're on our own.
We stirred something up in this house. Something we shouldn't have.
Okay, slime suckers, listen up.
Phrase for today is I myself prefer a big, fat cucumber.
Hi, I'm Elaine Wilkes of Killer Party, and you're listening to Hysteria Continues.
And indeed you are. Hysteria Continues, episode number 14. We're back this week with the feature presentation, which is Killer Party, and Nathan will be talking to Elaine a little bit later. It's number 14, and I'm joined, as ever, by our slasher detectives, or as some may say, slasher defectives. And Erik, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm looking at my new big blue shiny one.
Are you? And what would that be? Is it a bit cold in Ireland?
No, it's my new microphone. It has the word blue written on it. I think that's the manufacturerer's name. So I'm hoping to sound super sexy this week. It
sounds very good. I may have to ask you about getting a microphone because I'm still using the computer's microphones, as people might be able to tell. So thanks for joining us, Erik. And also we have from the other side of the pond, we have Nathan.
Of our lives, these are the best times.
Is that one of your favourite songs, Nathan?
Oh, yes. See, I can sing it from beginning to end. I won't do it, but I can.
We maybe have that as a little extra at the end, perhaps. So something to look forward to. And Joseph, how are you doing?
Hi, this is Joseph from The Body Count Continues, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
Indeed you are. So, yeah, great. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining us if you're listening in. And if you're listening to this, you are listening in, so I'm not sure where that's going. But anyway, well, thanks for joining us again. As I say, we've got Killer Party coming up a little bit later. We're going to be talking about, as usual, some of the films we've seen recently. I got some sort of listener feedback, and also we're going to be returning to 1981 in lieu of a top three. This week we're going to be talking about perhaps, arguably, the best year for slasher movies, and that's 1981. So before we do that, shall we talk about some films we've seen since the last show? Who wants to go first? How about you, Erik? What have you been watching?
Okay, well, inspired by Mr. Nathan, I caught up with two films that he had on his recently seen list a few weeks ago. First of all, I saw Slumber Party Massacre 3. I hadn't seen this before. And I thought it was pretty decent. It was kind of like a remake of the first one, but I like the fact that it's more or less played straight, and it's got rid of the sort of jokey humour, which I feel marred the second entry slightly. The second one I saw, I did not like at all. I'm sorry, Nathan. I know it's one of your favourites. It's Blood Diner.
Better apologise to Amanda, too.
I'm sorry, Amanda. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Now, there are two bits that I did like. I liked the Topless Cheerleader Massacre, which is a good name for a movie in itself. And I also liked the Deep Fried Head sequence. But as for the rest of the film, I thought it was far too close to being a trauma movie for my liking. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Too much forced humour and slapstick and wackiness. So I'm sorry.
Well, I forgive you.
They can't all be pearls, can they? So no. Thank you, Erik. How about you, Nathan? What have you been feasting your eyes on?
Okay, well, I was over at Grant's Friday night, and we watched Bloodstalkers and the Toolbox Murders, the original.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I missed that night.
I liked them both, so, I didn't need your negativity.
Well,
you're a hater.
You had
Jamie. You hater.
You had Jamie. That was enough negative.
No, he wasn't there.
Well.
Let's see. Bloodstalkers, I like Bloodstalkers, but to me, it doesn't even kick in until the last 20 minutes. The last 20 minutes are great, but like the first hour is kind of a chore to sit through. I still enjoy it, but, I guess if I wish the whole movie could have lived up to that last 20-minute segment where just that huge massacre just starts and it doesn't stop until the final credits roll. The original...
It was made in '75, wasn't it, or something like that? So it was kind of way before Halloween and everything. So it was kind of lumped in. I think it's released later, wasn't it, on video to sort of a bit like Savage Weekend and those kind of films. They kind of were released later to sort of cash in on the slasher movie boom. But it's not really a slasher movie as such, is it?
I don't know. I mean, the kills are very slasher-esque. Axe, sickle. Girl getting her throat slit. I mean, because, well, I can't really say much. I'll spoil it, but it's. I would definitely rank it as a slasher, a proto slasher, anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely a proto slasher, I can guess. But I suppose it's kind of. I mean, the point I think I was unsuccessfully trying to make, but I think it was kind of when I saw it, I thought it was going to be like a. It'd been made later than it had, and I think it's one of those films that probably sat on the shelf or got a regional release somewhere, and then it got re-released on video. And when it came out, because it's got I don't know if the cover you've got or if it had a cover, but it's the picture of the one I've got is the woman with the axe in her chest lying, on a workbench or something. So it really looks like it's kind of going to be a 80s slash movie, but it's not. But what did you think of Toolbox Murders?
I love the Toolbox Murders. I think that opinions are usually split down the middle where that movie's concerned. And I think that the opening, like the opening set of murders, I'd say right after the nail gun murder, the movie completely shifts and turns into a completely different kind of movie. And I didn't really like that they did that. I still enjoy the movie, but, it's one of the ones where I think the first 20 to 30 minutes are really good, and I wish the rest of the movie could have held up with that. So...
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, thanks, Nathan. How about you, Joseph? What have you been up to?
On another one of my why am I watching this binges, I watched the Asylum's answer to Paranormal Activity, which was called Paranormal Entity. Now, I should say that this is probably the best film the Asylum has ever done, but that's not saying a whole lot. But on some level, I actually kind of enjoyed it. There's a few effective scare scenes, and even if they are aping the Paranormal Activity mainframe, it's not too bad. It's reasonably put together, and if the Asylum can manage to build from this, I mean, they might get somewhere. But what kept me from really giving the film a higher mark is the casting of probably one of the worst actors in history as the kid who's kind of documenting the ghostly goings-on in the house. I mean, he's awful beyond words, but it's not a bad try for the Asylum, actually.
Okay, cool. Because I saw on the when I was in a sort of Head, which is a shop that sells independent shop, sells loads of DVDs and stuff, and there was Paranormal Entity 2, which piqued my interest only because it had quite a good premise. Is a load of college kids go to John Wayne Gacy's house and try and sort of ghost hunt at his house, and I thought it could have potential to be quite good, but. I don't know. So you wouldn't. It's not really worth checking out.
If you can tune out the guy behind the camera, yeah, I'd say go for it. I mean, it's not too awful. I mean, it's not great, but they're getting better. I hate to say it, but they're getting better.
Cool. Okay. Excellent. Anything else you've been watching?
Yeah, two more. I also watched the Nacho Cerda's short film Aftermath, which is from 1994, which is essentially a guinea pig style film. It clocks in at about 25 minutes. But while Guinea Pig was not much more than gratuitous gore and human misery, Aftermath kind of actually manages to effectively creep you out with what is essentially a coroner violating a corpse after hours. Only if it makes you kind of question what would happen to your body after you die. I mean, it's nowhere near a great film by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't know. I found it kind of oddly effective for what it was.
Yeah, I've seen it. I saw it a long time ago, and it's it's not something you show your gran, is it? But
well, it's a perfect date movie. I mean, nothing says hold my hand like a good cunt stabbing.
And we'll move swiftly on to your third choice, Joseph, shall we?
Yeah, I also watched Eric Red's 100 Feet, which Erik being, of course, the guy who wrote The Hitcher and Near Dark. This film stars the delicious but miscast Famke Janssen. She's a woman who was sent to prison for killing her abusive cop husband in self-defense. He's played by Michael Pare. She gets to serve out the remainder of her sentence, and the confines of her home wearing an ankle bracelet, but her late husband's disgruntled partner keeps tabs on her from the outside, and what happens next is that her husband's ghost starts tormenting her from beyond the grave, physically assaulting her at every turn and generally scaring the living crap out of her. Of course, the gag here is that wearing an ankle monitor, she can't leave the house lest she go back to prison. So it's a pretty clever premise, but it's not executed as well as it should have been. I mean, for starters, Famke's character generally acts like this otherworldly occurrence is like tantamount to folding the laundry or doing the dishes. And Michael Pare, he plays the ghost, but he doesn't get much to do except pop up in a few like CGI boo moments. I mean, there's one really effective scene where the ghost actually turns someone into like a human pretzel, but overall it's just kind of all over the map.
What covers them in salt?
I'm sorry?
It covers them in salt. You said pretzel.
Oh, no, I'm talking about, bending the limbs. Like.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So, okay. Well, no, excellent. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, he doused him in salt and dipped him in mustard.
Yeah. Well, there you go. It's kind of there's nothing new under the sun, as they say.
Yeah, mustard on a pretzel. I was just thinking.
Never heard that?
No, chocolate on a pretzel.
Oh,
Yes,
no.
chocolate pretzels. Yes,
White chocolate.
No.
Yeah.
I like.
Hey.
White chocolate's okay. I like the other chocolate better.
Okay.
But anyway, it's an all right movie. I mean, I'd give it 5 out of 10, maybe 6.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for those, guys. I've just got one film I was going to quickly mention, which is the newish British kind of quasi slasher, which is F for Fail, basically. Not the movie Fails, actually. The movie's pretty good, actually, but it's the F stands for fail, and it's set in a secondary school, which is like like a high school or a college for sort of it's mid, sort of 16-year-old sort of teenagers, and it's a teacher who has a nervous breakdown after being headbutted by one of his students after giving them an F. And he comes back after a year later, and he's drinking too much, and he's about to be thrown out of the school. And then suddenly he's doing detention after school with his daughter, actually, who's made to stay behind detention. There's other teachers and a janitor there and security guards, and it essentially turns into like a slasher-esque Assault on Precinct 13, where these hoodies, and I don't know if you have that kind of hoodie culture thing in the States, but it's those kind of sweatshirts with hoods on them, and in the UK, hoodies are sort of seen as like hooligans, hanging around street corners, kicking grannies as they walk past, that kind of thing. But in this film, they're slightly more sinister because they're basically, there's 4 or 5 of them, and they turn up and they start killing everyone. And what makes it quite sinister is their faces. They've got the hoods up, but you can't see their faces. It's just blackness. So and also what they're like, almost like kind of ghostly ninjas. They're kind of like monkeys climbing along the library shelves and dropping down from the rafters up above and things like that. And it's quite vicious. And so, but you're never quite sure who they are, if they actually exist, or what the thing is. But it's pretty effective little film. It's quite short. It's only about 75 minutes. But that's definitely worth checking out. It's got one of those slightly ambiguous endings, and but it's quite violent. There's they really go to town on people. There's one shot of a woman who's crawling on the floor and her jaws hanging off and things like that. So it's really playing on the kind of the right-wing press's or tabloid panic in this country about hoodies, and it really plays into that, which I think quite often some of the best horror movies do. They play into kind of national panics and things where people, whatever is the bête noire at the moment. And so it's a little bit like Eden Lake, which is another British sort of quasi-slasher where like chavs, which again are kind of like... what do you call them in Ireland?
Well, we use the word chavs as well, but they're also called scangers.
Scangers, okay.
Yeah.
And what would you call them in America?
We just call them punks.
Punks, okay. So, but yeah, so there's those two films, which are kind of playing off kind of the recent kind of moral panic about sort of disaffected youth, which has basically been playing back since the 1950s, I kind of guess. But
You said it was called F?
yeah.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds like a good one.
Yeah, it's very well put together. It's beautifully shot. It's got some problems, but watch it first and then we can discuss it later. But I quite enjoyed it. It's very tense, very, very, very well put together. So yeah, worth checking out. You've not seen it, Eric, have you?
Not yet, no, but I have heard about it. I think it played Fright Fest last year.
That's right, yeah. I think it divides opinions. I've got some very kind of strong opinions about the ending, about what the ending means, because it's one of those films that it's not quite. I don't think it's quite what it seems. But then when I watched the features on the Blu-ray last night, I think I may have been wrong. So it'd be interesting for you guys to watch it, and then we could discuss it at some point. So yeah, well, I've been watching other bits and pieces, but we'll be here all day otherwise if I keep yammering on. So yeah,
Justin.
Yeah.
I have just a quick question for you. Did you like Eden Lake?
So I just took a swig of beer there. Yeah, no, I did like Eden Lake. I thought it was really good. I really liked the main guy in it. The I can't remember his name now. The German guy. He was in Inglourious Bastards and
Michael Fassbender. He's Irish.
He's Irish. Oh, he's Irish, but he grew up in Germany, didn't he, or something, or
something like that? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I thought had a really shocking ending. Did you watch it, Nathan?
I liked it, and I kind of liked what the ending said, but I have never been more furious at an ending to a movie than I was at that one.
I would agree with Nathan. Yeah,
I was so.
I've got to see this.
I just wanted to go into the movie and do something, and I'm not gonna spoil it since Joseph hasn't seen it. But the ending, I was livid after that movie went off.
I had exactly the same response to it. Yeah. I mean, it is a good movie, but you just want to go in there with all fists clenched and. Oh.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Eden Lake, right?
Eden Lake.
All right, that's going to be next on my watch. That and F.
Excellent. Well, a British double bill, so keeping the British end up. Excellent. Okay, well, that's what we've been watching recently. So perhaps should we do some feedback next?
Sure.
Guys, have you got Joseph and Nathan, Eric? Have you got any feedback? I've got a few bits here.
No.
No, okay. Well, I've just got a few bits and pieces because we're recording these podcasts not exactly back to back, but they're quite close together, which means we haven't got as much feedback as we might do normally. But also, please do send your feedback in because we'd love to hear it. But a few things we've had, a couple of nice ones. From Smiley Smile 18, who on iTunes says probably the best horror podcast I've heard. Great banter and interviews. So that was thanks to my mother for that. The next one from Reese Donnell, who says, listening to the awesome podcast courtesy of the Hysteria Continues. I love them. You guys rock and make a slasher nerd like me feel right at home. So yes, it's always good. As I'm sure there's lots more slasher nerds out there who'll be. We're trying to get as many possible listening to this. So if you are a slasher nerd, or a slasher nerd, or you're in a closet slasher nerd or whatever, why don't you come out and send us some feedback? And finally, our good old friend Mark Huckle, not Mark Huckle, no. And he did say, thank you for the mention on the last podcast. I'm not ginger, though that would make for an original slasher movie villain. So there you go. So, although Chucky obviously had ginger hair, didn't he? So
he did.
Yes. So we won't take the piss out of you anymore, Mark, and we do appreciate you writing in. So we will, as I said to you earlier, Mark, we blamed Erik for that, didn't we? So
it sounded like he said McHuckle the first time he said it. It's not my fault. Enunciate.
Okay. Well, how about moving on swiftly? We, as we said before, when we started this, there was three of us. There was Erik and Joseph, and Nathan joined us a little while later into the. I think we said this before, but it was like the third or fourth episode, wasn't it? So Nathan didn't have a chance to join us in some of our top threes or top fours or fives as they were back then. So we've gone through Nathan's what the fuck moments through the last few episodes. So we're going to bring Nathan up to speed with some of his worst slashers. So over the next few episodes, we're going to get to those. So Nathan, what is your top five or your bottom five slasher?
The one I picked this time is the April Fool's Day remake because I love the original so much, and I really, really, really hate the remake because, well, to me, we've talked about this several times before, but it's just that there's no character in the movie that you can like, that you care what happens to them. I mean, even the characters that are supposed to be the good ones, I mean, they're either unlikable themselves or they're just boring, and they just seem kind of like, you know, like they don't even put their effort into the movie anyway. It's like the actors are just there to earn a paycheck. It's just like, okay, I just put the camera on me and let's start shooting. I mean, the whole thing just seems dull and, you know, full of just characters that I wanted all the people to die, you know, in the movie. I want all the characters to die. Maybe they could have died in like 20 minutes. It could have made it a much shorter movie.
It's a pretty poor movie. We obviously covered April Fool's Day, didn't we? And we discussed the remake a little while back as well on the same show. But yes, I mean, I can barely remember anything about it. I think I watched it a few months ago for the show, and I can't, you know, I really can't remember anything about it. I can vaguely, you know, remember the twist at the end and things like that. But yes, it's kind of the worst kind of filmmaking, isn't it? It's kind of insipid. I think it's probably the best word to describe it. It's you know, up there or down there, I kind of guess, for the Prom Night remake as a completely pointless exercise where it kind of rips everything that's fun and then sending out of the 80s version, you know, and does, you know, it's quite depressing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. When you look at the original and then the remakes that they were coming out with, like you saying, the Prom Night and remake and April Fool's Day remake, just, I don't know, I mean, there's a few remakes I like, but there's just a lot that are just worthless.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, absolutely. Well, after that downer, thanks for that, Nathan.
Hey, Justin.
No, joking, but yeah.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to give out the email address, and I actually did have feedback from John Woodward.
Okay.
He wrote back about the My Bloody Valentine show. He says, you know, great first show on the My Bloody Valentine, guys. Looking forward to part 2, which is out today. And what a shocker to learn that Alf Humphreys lives in my city, Stratford, as does Cynthia Dale. Then I found out that Leslie Donaldson of Funeral Home and Curtains fame might have some connection to Stratford. Maybe you can organize a Canadian slasher convention and hold it here. Regarding the Canadian accent, it is true that those on the East Coast have a more pronounced and, shall we say, earthy accent, and that is what you're hearing in My Bloody Valentine. When you come here to Southern Ontario, be it to Stratford or Toronto, you'll notice a blander, more Americanized sound, except some people do say a boot. The American tourists who come here from New York or Michigan or Chicago have really pronounced accents. They say dollar instead of dollar, or scattish instead of Scottish, or scattish. I don't know what he's talking about. But anyway, and don't get me started on Southerners. Kidding, of course. The clothing issue, though, is interesting. I think what you see as a Canadian mode of dress circa late 70s and early 80s is, in fact, just a general North American working class way of dressing. We would get folks from Detroit and upstate New York coming through back in the day who dressed just the same as the schlubs who worked in the mine. Mind you, when I was younger, we used to call the jeans T-shirt and jean jacket combo we saw everywhere as a Canadian tuxedo. I think there's a photo of David Cronenberg working on Shivers wearing a Canadian tuxedo. But enough about that. Still loving the podcast. Your banter has the ring of a dysfunctional family, and that truly warms the cockles of my heart. Cheers, John Woodward. P.S. Check out a new book called Shock Value by Jason Zinnemann. It's about the American horror film Mavericks of the 70s and does feature a lot on John Carpenter and Halloween. Very good read and significantly juicier than Blood Money.
Okay, excellent.
And the email address, if you want to write in, is the hysteria continues at gmail.com. It's the.hysteria.continues at gmail.com.
Fantastic, excellent. And write in, let us know what we're doing right or what we're doing wrong and what you'd like us to cover in the future. So, excellent. Well, what we're going to do, I think, is we're going to try and go back in a time machine to possibly the best year for slasher movies. And that's 1981. And I've got a little clip here, which I thought is going to be quite fun, to take us back in time to those halcyon days of the opening of the mom and pop video store.
I'm in deep trouble, folks. They've started the video revolution without me. Now I got to play catch up. Here I am, 750 hard-earned bucks clutched firmly in my tight little paw. I'm at a neighborhood video store, it's typical of the ones that are cropping up all over the country. And in 3 minutes, you and I are going to get an education. We're going to learn how to untangle initials like VHS and CED, how to tell the difference between tape and disc. So let's get started before things change and get even more confusing. Now, this is a video tape recorder, or VTR. Actually, sometimes they're called video cassette recorders, or VCRs, but don't let that throw you. There's lots more confusing stuff coming up. Tapes come in two formats, beta and VHS. Beta, as you can see, is smaller and supposedly more sophisticated. VHS, on the other hand, is larger, and its fans claim it's more reliable. The only thing we can tell you is that you can't play a beta tape in a VHS machine, and vice versa.
Well, there you go. Very informative. I'm sure you agree. So that's taking...
I did not know that.
Did you not know that?
I'm kidding.
I cut that clip down because it's got lots of talking about laser discs, and it's sort of saying about how the amazing functionality of laser discs of being able to fast forward and rewind and jump to areas of a movie that you couldn't do on a videotape. So it just goes to show...
I still have a couple laser discs. I have the Incubus, and I have Friday the 13th Part 3.
Oh, excellent! I've never. I remember them back in the day, but I never actually used a laserdisc.
They were very expensive.
Yeah,
I never watched them, but I collect them because they're obviously collector's items now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because it's funny when that guy says that he's got $750 in his hand, because he says later on it that a VCR or a VTR. I never heard them called VTRs. Costs around about $750 back in.
I think it's a videotape recorder, actually.
Oh yes, it probably is, isn't it? So 1981. I mean, that was before. It was just as the videotape phenomenon was taking off. But of course, in 1981, it also happened to be the time probably where more slasher movies were at cinema than any other year before or since, I'm sure. So we're going to talk about 1981 a little bit. So obviously, as I'm a couple of years older than some of you guys, I do remember 1981 possibly slightly better than you do, but I'd be interested to hear what you think and why you think 1981 is kind of the apex of the slasher movie. So, Erik, what are your thoughts?
1981. Why did it have such resonance with me? That's why. Well, in 1981 I was 7, so I wasn't really... Well, I say I wasn't into horror. I actually, unbeknownst to myself, was into horror, because that was the year I went to see Raiders of the Lost Ark and the original Clash of the Titans in the cinema. And both of them had hugely horrific scenes in them for PG movies. As for what made them great for slashers, I suppose because it was just at the start of the cashing in on Halloween phase, sort of 1980. A few of them came out, then 1981 they all decided to cash in. So if you're having that many slasher films in a year, some of them are bound to be fantastic. And I mean, I have my favourites amongst them. I think we're going to discuss that later. 1981, music-wise, was a big year for me as well. It was the first year I started watching Top of the Pops, the sort of flagship music programme. Of course, back then in Ireland, we only had 2 television channels. Can you remember ever in your life having only 2 television channels to choose from? One of which didn't start till 5 o'clock in the evening. I mean, it was like the Stone Age in Ireland in 1981. But we didn't have a VCR, and my only outlet to films was going to the cinema. So even if I did have an interest in Friday the 13th Part 2 or Halloween 2, there was no way I could get to see them. Not until they appeared on television.
Do you remember seeing the posters at the cinema?
I do. I remember. I didn't see them at the cinema. I do remember seeing the listings in the local paper,
right?
Where they used to print sort of little facsimiles of the posters. I remember there was a double bill of Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2. But that was probably 1982 or 83, I'd say, maybe. But no, I do remember looking at all. I looked at them and they looked kind of interesting, but I don't remember ever having any desire to see them. But now, of course, when I look back, because I do have access to some of those old local papers, and like looking back, it's like, oh my God, imagine if I was 7 then. If I was even 7 years older at the time, how I would have lived in the cinema.
Yeah, of course. Which you've got in. What is it different in Ireland that you could go?
Well, back then they were kind of strict because we had 2 cinemas where I lived, and they were always packed no matter what film was showing, because VCR really hadn't taken off yet. As the 80s wore on, I found it very easy to get into over 18s films because nobody was going to the cinema anymore because everyone had a VCR. I could get into 18s films when I was 13, which was 87.
Right.
But back in the early 80s, you wouldn't have any chance of getting into a over 18s film.
Wow. Okay. No, excellent. Well, no, thanks, Erik. Even if you did play Toya, so we shall come on. I'll talk a little bit more in a minute. But what about you guys? How about you, Joseph? What's your recollections of 81?
Well, 81 was easily the best year for slasher films, in my opinion. And while my absolute favorite film actually came out in the 70s, pound for pound, 81 covered the world with some of the best slashers, not least of which are Friday the 13th Part 2, Halloween 2, and My Bloody Valentine, among so many others. And probably one of my favorite unsung classics is the made-for-TV slasher Dark Night of the Scarecrow. I also have to tip my proverbial hat to the Incubus, the Prowler, and perhaps two I like more than anyone else is Scream, a.k.a. The Outing, and House of Death. I mean, yeah, 1981 was almost too perfect of a year, and though it's not slasher related but was released in 1981, I'll throw my 2 cents in about Erg, A Music War, because it features some of the best musicians and groups. Gary Newman, Joan Jett, Gerald Casal, and Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo, the late Lux Interior from The Cramps, all of the guys from Gang of Four, John Doe and his posse from X, Danny Elfman and Oingo Boingo, Wall of Voodoo, and last but not least, it features Joel Bogan, Charlie Francis, Pete Bush, and Steve Bray, who were the backers for Toya Wilcox, who also makes an appearance. And lo and behold, it doesn't feature Susie, so I'll let Erik and Justin chew on that whilst I sit back and watch the ensuing catfight.
Well, we'll be duffing up each other while I play this little TV spot for a film you mentioned, and we'll come back and talk a little bit in a minute.
The body count continues. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23.
Jeff?
The day you count on for terror is not over. Friday the 13th, Part 2, rated R.
Okay, and Erik is now dead, and so is Joseph. So, Nathan,
I'm very much alive.
Well, you need to
no Susie in that documentary.
No. Well, funny enough, we shall get onto that in a second, but I just thought I'd bring Nathan on into this. Nathan, what are your thoughts about 1981?
Well, I would like to share memories with you guys from 1981, but I was born at the end of 1980, so I don't remember anything from 81. So 5 minutes before the podcast started, I decided to go on this little-known website, Hysteria Lives.
Oh, yes, and very good.
I was flipping through 1981 because I kept thinking, it's one of my favorite years. Is there any movie from 81 that I don't like? And actually, there's not. Every movie that I see on your list that I've seen, I love.
Well, even Stormbringer.
Huh?
Even Stormbringer, Day of Judgment.
Yes, I even like Day of Judgment, I have to say.
Okay.
I'll tell you one I really want to see, though. I want to see Evil plus Hate equals Killer. I haven't seen that one yet, and I really want to watch it.
Because that's Linnea Quigley's first ever appearance, isn't it, in a film? And she gets
I think so.
She gets
I can't remember
beer pulled over her head, so it's quite a steamed start to her glittering career. But yeah, no. So yeah, I mean, were there any bad movies made in 1981? I'd say there probably were a few, but I'm not a huge fan of, say, a film like The Forest or.
Aww.
You like it? You like The Forest?
I love The Forest.
Well, I don't mind it. I think it's one of those ones I probably need to go back and have another look at. But I know
I'm a big fan of Absurd, which you give a bad review of on.
Ooh, I love Absurd too.
Yeah.
I like Absurd too. I didn't used to like it, but now it's kind of growing on me. It's one of those films.
Well, I think when I wrote that Absurd review was probably 12, 13 years ago, so it's a long time ago, so I'm sure if I go back and rewatch it, I'll probably enjoy it a bit more. But while we'll come back with a few more thoughts, if you've got any more, Nathan, but here's another trailer from 1981. We've got a couple of these lined up, and this is another one here.
From the people who brought you Halloween, more of the night he came home. Halloween 2.
There was nothing within him, not a conscience, no reason that wasn't even remotely human.
Don't miss the all-new Halloween 2. More of the night he came home. Halloween 2, rated R. The horror now playing at a theater near you.
I actually remember. I don't remember that playing on TV, but I do remember some of those kind of TV spots. Obviously, I'm in the UK, and these were all American TV spots. The one that really sticks out to me wasn't 81, but was The Fog, and it was which I've never seen. I've never seen the trailer for The Fog. That is how I remember it, and it's very short, but it was saying, close your doors, lock your windows. The fog is coming. There's something out there, and it was kind of. And there was lots of people pulling their windows shut, and I don't think it's not in the film, and I've never seen that TV spot before. But I remember that back at the time, and that having quite a big effect on me. So, but obviously, Nathan, if you were one in 1981, you wouldn't have remembered these first time around, or maybe subliminally while you were there in your cot. These were going on in the background, so you were kind of there in spirit. I think maybe what it did was put the seed of a slasher loving into you.
I think so.
Yes. Okay. Well, I was trying to think. What 1981? Well, what I was going to say back to Erik, because obviously I was trying to be quite mature, so I haven't got any Susie lined up. But I would say, because I'm the one editing this podcast, what I'm going to do is to say, listen to this.
What have you done to her?
Erik, you can't pull a fast one on me. So, who was that?
That's Strikes
That was Susie.
Yeah.
That was Toya rolling over in her grave, the grave of her career. Okay, right. 1981. Anything else you want to say about 1981?
Yeah, I've got a little audio clip I sent you earlier, Justin. Do you have it lined up?
I do.
I will just introduce this. This has nothing to do with slasher movies, but I just wanted to give our American friends a little taster of what British life was like. And this is actually from a TV series from 1978, but it was aired in Ireland in 1981. It's an adaptation of Enid Blyton's Famous Five, but it's updated to 1978. So they're all in tight denim flares with high waistbands and riding around on rally choppers. And it has a very twee outlook on British life. And so the kids are all very polite. And this little clip, it's only 8 seconds. It's when Anne encounters a escaped convict. She tries to give him some assistance after he hurts his ankle, but he tries to grab her as she approaches, and this is what she says to him. And I think this is what I like to imagine Justin would say if he was in the same situation.
Here we go.
Oh, it serves you right, you horrible man. I knew I shouldn't trust you. You can jolly well stay there until I get the police.
Now, that's the complete opposite of the type of teenager you get in F, I'd say, Justin, is it?
Absolutely, yes. There's lots of those kind of. I love those old clips. There's those on YouTube. It's worth having a look at the old public safety films that came out in the late 70s, early 80s. And there's a great one with Donald Pleasance, actually, who narrates it as the Grim Reaper. And it's all kind of basically, I think we've spoken about this before, but the kind of like, they're almost like precursors to Final Destination. And it's lots of children playing on by riversides and falling in, or playing on farms and being impaled and various things like that. But they're always going, "Oi, governor," like this. And so they don't speak like that anymore. But
you European people give the bums and the criminals a good talking to.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
stay right there, governor.
Oh, I love it when Americans do a British accent. It always
because it's terrible, isn't it?
It is, but I was going to say 1981 is how long ago is that? 26 years,
30,
25 years. No,
30 years.
30 years ago. What am I talking about? I can't do my mathematics.
Justin's not very good at math.
I'm not very good at maths. No. I didn't. It took me 3 attempts to get my O level, which shows how old I am. But to really hammer home how old or how far long ago 1981 was, I've got another quick clip here for you.
This is only the first step in newspapers by computer. Engineers now predict the day will come when we get all our newspapers and magazines by home computer, but that's a few years off. So for the moment at least, this fellow isn't worried about being out of a job. Steve Newman, U Center 4.
Well, it takes over 2 hours to receive the entire text of the newspaper over the phone, and with an hourly use charge of $5, the new telepaper won't be much competition for the 20-cent street edition.
There you go. Back in 1981, that was a sort of a news report when the internet wasn't even a twinkle in the eye. I don't know when the internet started, but it certainly didn't
1993, I think it was.
Was it? Okay.
Launched-ish, yeah.
And it didn't really come to sort of fruition, did it? For public access, as it were, for most of us until the late 90s. Was it 96, 97? So, yes, in
Hey,
1981.
you and your damn kids, I used to walk back in 1981 to school uphill both ways in the snow. Yeah. Okay.
You sound like a character from Scooby-Doo.
You do.
That's what I wanted. That was what I was going for. And I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you two meddling kids.
You two fiddling.
So, you know,
Yeah,
Happy
right, you
Birthday
two-
to Me was 81, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Happy
Yes.
Birthday to Me was 81.
It was,
so
yes.
It was Scooby-Doo-ish,
It
so
was
I made a Happy
Scooby-Doo-ish.
Birthday to Me reference.
Absolutely.
Speaking of downloading magazines, I see the Dark Side magazine has... No, this is legitimately.
Yeah, right.
Dark Side magazine has relaunched in the UK, and they're available as a download now as well as a hard copy.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm still not going to buy it, though.
Aren't you? Why not?
You better not.
I've issues with the Dark Side. I don't think it's a terribly well-written magazine either.
The trouble is, there's not
I don't want to
actually-
hear, you illegally downloading things ever.
But he's not.
I don't.
Though. It's not exactly. But the trouble is there any decent magazines, horror magazines in the UK? I mean, in America and Canada, you're spoiled. You've got Rue Morgue and Horror Hounds and Fangoria to lesser
Video
greater
Watchdog.
extent.
It's not strictly a horror mag, but it has a lot of
Yeah.
horror content.
But there's not really anything in the UK that's kind of worth reading. I don't think at the moment. I mean, I don't even know if Ghoul Zone's still going.
Oh, that was dreadful.
Yes, it wasn't
Well,
the
the
best.
thing about the magazines is they're really too expensive. I mean, I'd rather just browse the internet. I mean, magazines in stores are almost $10. I mean, for a medium that's really kind of clinging to life, I don't see myself paying $10 or $11 for a magazine that I'm only going to read once or twice.
No, absolutely. Well, there you go. That's 1981. Before we fade out on 81, because I'm sure we're going to be coming back and talking about a lot of these movies at a lot more detail in the the coming months or years or decades. I mean, who knows how long this is going to go on for. But here's the TV trailer for another 81 classic, The Funhouse.
Tonight, in the funhouse, something waits for Amy. Something deadly, something evil, something that feeds on the flesh of young innocence. Something that tonight will turn the funhouse into a carnival of terror. The Funhouse, rated R.
That's one thing I do miss, actually, from those early 80s slasher movies, is that really gravelly voiced man talking.
yeah.
Because they don't do that anymore, do they, for horror movies? You don't really get that. I don't recall seeing
I don't
trailers.
think they do any voiceovers now, do they? It's all kind of...
It's all clips, isn't it?
and it's text on the screen, kind of explaining the context and in a world of something.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame, isn't it? Because I think...
Yeah, that was Don LaFontaine. He had the greatest movie voice. He passed away a few years ago. Yeah, I miss that kind of... coming through soon to a theater near you. That kind of thing.
Absolutely. If we do a trailer for this show, which we're talking about doing something for a trailer for the Hysteria Continues, it would be fantastic. If anyone knows out there anybody who's got that kind of voice or can put on that kind of voice, then please let us know, because it would be great to do.
Joseph
something
could attempt it up there.
Yeah, well, maybe Joseph.
That was
It kind of sounded like Inspector Gadget. Like
That was my Dr. Claus.
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
I think he sounded like, is it Alex is his name in Prom Night, when he's on the phone?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you could pull it off, Joseph.
Now.
Yes.
Hey, another 1981. Oh, is that 80?
That's 80.
80.
80.
It was probably 81 to us, Justin would say, because back then there was a big, a couple of months gap between a US release and a UK release, wasn't there?
No, yeah, there was, because I got I just got like a Halloween 2 advert through the post for obviously the 81 version. I just bought it for a couple of quid off eBay, and it says that it was all over London on Sunday, February 28th. So it must have been 82. So we were getting films, because it's not like today when films come out quite quickly in the UK or simultaneously quite often, because back in the day it would be at least 6 months until we saw them, and I think it's probably because they recycled the prints from America.
It was much longer getting to my small city in Ireland. I remember waiting a year from the US release of A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 before it arrived in my local cinema. Really? And the same for Hellraiser 2.
And did you find, because I remember seeing like opening night films, and the prints were quite damaged, you know, quite they'd obviously been shown on American screens and done, especially if they'd been regional releases and just toured the States, which obviously quite a few of them did. And actually coming to Killer Party, I think that was only released regionally, which was something that was kind of dying out by that point. But yeah, the prints we used to get, if they weren't cut by the censors, then you know, we would get sort of the knackered old prints from who's been doing, you know, 6 months, you know, round trip around the States. Yeah. So, yeah, well, that's 1981.
Actually, Justin, I know we're trying to move on to our feature, which is 1986, but before we do, I have a question for you three.
Okay, that sounds ominous.
Okay, if you had to pick one movie from 1981 to be your favorite slasher movie, what would it be?
Friday the 13th Part 2.
Okay.
I agree. Erik?
Yeah. Probably Friday the 13th Part 2, but it would be probably a tie also with Halloween 2, because I love them both so much.
And
I kind of agree with that.
Justin, what do you think?
I don't know. I think, because, I love Friday the 13th Part 2, and I love Halloween 2, but I think I'm going to go against Grain and say Happy Birthday to Me.
Oh, interesting.
I'm glad you said that, Justin, because I really think Happy Birthday to Me doesn't get the credit it deserves.
Absolutely.
It's really good.
Absolutely. Well, I love that film. I mean, I think Friday the 13th Part 2 and Halloween 2 are better slash movies, but Happy Birthday to Me encapsulates, as do those films, everything that's good about a slash movie and the things that I love. And we talked about it so many times. We talked about it so many times again, why a lot of modern horror films fall down is that you know, they really don't get that balance of fun and thrills and scares and cheesiness and all those kind of things. They just don't get them, which the early 80s films do. And I think, just going back to those trailers, I watched the trailer for the Funhouse, a TV trailer, and if you go onto YouTube and watch that, it's actually got footage in it that's not in the Funhouse. It's in the actual finished film. It's nothing major, but it's got Cooper Huckabee and Elizabeth Berridge running around the funhouse being chased by a subjective camera point of view, which isn't in the film, but it's fantastic. It's great, and it just encapsulates that fun. And it just makes me. I love the whole thing about trailers. You know, I'm a real trailer junkie. I still love watching modern trailers, but those old trailers, I just wonder how much fun that would be to sit in the cinema and see those, and have those. Watch those on TV at
I wonder
time.
if I would be out of line suggesting a top 3 trailers for a future episode.
I reckon we could do it. Absolutely, because I
really love trailers, and you're speaking about how the Funhouse is a little different than the actual version. They did the same with He Knows You're Alone from 1980.
Yes, they did. Yeah. That's the classic, isn't it? With where the man or something jumps out the mirror and attacks a girl. Yeah. I mean, I would very much be up for a top 3 trailer. Thing, because I think we could have a lot of fun with that. So, yeah, okay. Well, that's 1981 in a wrapped up. I think for
we're
now.
Gonna have to rev up our flux capacitor and get back to the future now.
Absolutely, we're going to move forward to
1986 at least.
Or
to 86.
86, or is it
Yes.
or is it in 1984, or even is it in 1978? Well, actually, it's not 1978, but we'll be talking about that in a minute. We're coming to our pizza presentation.
The pizza presentation.
The pizza.
Kind of sounds good. I'm a little hungry right now.
The feature presentation, which is Killer Party, and Nathan's going to be coming in after this short break to talk us into the film, discussion about it. Now, we searched high and low, and there doesn't appear to be a trailer anywhere. Was one made? I don't know. If you know of a trailer, or you've got one on a video somewhere, or there's certainly not one on YouTube, let us know. But here's a little bit of dialogue from the film, which gives you an idea, perhaps, of what they were going for. And it's a little bit. We've heard a little bit of it earlier in the introduction, but this is some dialogue from Killer Party.
Okay, slime buckets, listen up. The phrase for today is I myself prefer a big, fat cucumber. Let's hear it. I myself prefer a big, fat cucumber. I can't hear you.
I myself prefer a big, fat cucumber.
Hey, girls. I've got a big, fat cucumber. Where would you prefer it?
Get lost, losers.
Screw you.
Okay, take it away, Nathan.
Killer Party is about three friends, Phoebe, Vivia, and Jennifer, who are going to pledge a sorority in college. And what starts as, a lot of comedy, a lot of fun moments, quickly changes once they actually have the killer party at the old abandoned frat house, which seems it was the site of a accidental death years before, where a pledge was killed. And his spirit has come back and starts killing off the party guests in a variety of grisly ways, which unfortunately were all butchered out of the movie, which I wasn't too thrilled about, but, what can you do? It's still a really, really fun movie. It's got great characters in it, very likable. It just has a huge fun atmosphere. It's one of those movies that if I'm in a bad mood, I could play it and it would, cheer me up. That's how much I like it. And it, it's got a lot of good acting in it. I think the actors all did an exceptional job. I really love the three leads and Ralph Seymour as Martin. I have to say, the Internet Movie Database is a big fat liar because this movie was not filmed in 1978. I did read that it was filmed in 1984, though, in that book, Terror on Tape, which I could kind of see that it was shelved. And I wonder what the story is with all the missing gore footage, because it's obvious if you watch the movie, the killings at the end, they're butchered really badly. I mean, there's hardly any bloodshed at all. That there would have been. So, I've got a few more things to say about it, but that was my quick synopsis, and I guess I'll turn it over to Joseph.
Yeah, I like Killer Party a lot. It's one of those movies, like Class Reunion Massacre, that I disliked when I first saw it, but it's kind of grown on me, exponentially. I think what it gets right is featuring a cast of exaggerated but extremely likable characters. I honestly don't think there was anyone I disliked, and its insistence on college life being nothing but wall-to-wall fraternity events and practical jokes kind of lends it a credible aura of comedy, some of which hits and some of which misses, but nonetheless gives the characters stuff to do when they're not getting picked off one by one. For me, I used to hate the shift from outright slasher to demonic possession film in the last 10 minutes, but I don't know, that particular shift in structure has kind of grown on me, and I think it adds another layer of charm. I will say the last few minutes managed to sidestep the bubbly, carefree attitude the film carried with it up until then, becoming downright jarring in its own right, and I really love the final moment in the ambulance. I mean, it's not going to make my top 10, but it's a good time nonetheless, and I don't know, what about you, Justin?
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I think we're probably going to talk about some of the background and stuff after we've spoken to Elaine, when Nathan speaks to Elaine, which is coming up, and it's a really informative interview about the film. I don't know. I had a kind of a problem with horror comedies, and I think looking back at them now, it's got that kind of sense and nostalgia, and it's kind of they get away with a bit more now than they did at the time. It kind of, I think basically, I think if it set out to be what it was originally, which it would have worked better, because I think it's a bit too disjointed, and I think it smacks of a kind of film where they've been not making it up as they go along. They changed it as they go along, and we'll talk a bit more about that after we've spoken to Elaine. But yeah, I agree. I mean, the three leads were incredibly likable, and that really I thought was great, especially with what I thought was really well created was that kind of sense of mid-80s, early 80s sort of fraternity and sorority, the shots of them cycling down the street with everyone sort of running around and putting up bunting and things like that is only kind of bettered really by the opening shots of Hell Night, which kind of, again, very much exaggerated, but I really liked that. I thought that was fun. And the three leads could have really been annoying, I think, but they weren't. They just on that cusp of going into being a little bit too broad, a little bit annoying, but I thought they were very, very likeable. I also thought what's interesting was I don't know if it was always written that way, but the kind of opening misdirection, which it kind of basically goes through about 3 or 4 different openings before actually the film starts in itself, which I thought was quite interesting. And I did wonder if that was kind of inspiration for the opening of Scream 4, perhaps. I don't know if any other films have done that, where because the film starts with a kind of a zombie. Well, two kind of zombie films, but it starts with a funeral and a woman being pulled into a coffin, and then she gets pushed into the crematorium because the guy who's working it has got his headphones on. But it turns out that a woman with an amazingly crimped hair, are watching it, a drive-in, and then she goes to get popcorn, comes out, and then she gets attacked by zombies, which then turns out to be the beginning of a rock video, which then goes into the character Phoebe watching MTV or something. And I thought it kind of comes back to the original title, which is, of course, April Fool's or Fool's Day. And so it kind of comes into that whole misdirection all the way through the film. You've got all of this kind of practical jokes and various things like that. And I thought that kind of worked well. But I did wonder when it, I remember when I first watched it, and I think I agree with Joseph, is that when I first watched it, you had this kind of lurch into the demonic possession at the end, the last 10 minutes. And I just remember at the time thinking, I thought I was going to be watching a slasher movie. I didn't realise I was going to be watching a rip-off of The Evil Dead. And I think it's a much more forgiving this time. And of course there were a few nods, because the character who becomes possessed, who's Jennifer, who's kind of the main character, I kind of guess, she occasionally suddenly turns away from her friends and goes boss-eyed and has contact lenses in, doesn't she, at various occasions in the film. So you kind of know something's up, I kind of guess. But I liked it. I was a bit unsure about when it was actually set, because it seemed to be set at Halloween to start off with, and then it kind of lurched forward to April Fool's Day. But I thought it kind of what smacked of a film that was constantly messed around with, and it was lurching all over the place. That didn't really work, because one minute it was Halloween and it was snowing, and then the next minute it was April Fool's Day and it was still snowing, and so you could see that there were problems there. And certainly I have seen it described as a film that William Fruitt would rather forget. So I don't think it was a happy film for him, certainly. Ultimately, it doesn't work, but I had quite a good time with it on getting there this time. So yeah, well, that's enough from me for the moment.
And Eric?
Okay, well, Nathan, now I know how you feel, because Justin has stolen everything I wanted to say.
I'm sorry.
But as we've all said, I think Killer Party was a film I first saw about 10 years ago, and I don't think I liked 1 second of it. I thought it was dreadful. Now, we watched it twice this week, and my opinion has changed, slightly anyway. I think it's far from a masterpiece, but there was a lot of things in it I did like. For starters, there's the incredibly 80s atmosphere to the whole thing, and as you know, I have a heart made out of a mullet, because I'm that sort of entrenched in the 80s. I still live there, according to some people. And look, in contrast to Blood Diner, I didn't find the humour in Killer Party that gaudy or that over the top. I thought it played quite well, because like Justin, horror comedies are very hit and miss with me. They're more miss than hit, I'm afraid. Evil Dead would probably be the pinnacle of the horror comedy. Killer Party maybe comes somewhere in between that. The three leads, as you said, are very likeable, particularly Phoebe and Vivia, I thought. But in terms of horror, I think you have to wait really till the final 20 minutes before anything sort of terribly horrific happens. And once it does, it really picks up and becomes quite good. I like the way the possession theme, they don't fall back into slapstick, or they don't fall into, making it too jokey, even though it is ludicrous, and you have this possessed woman jumping around, making this house fall apart. But I mean, it's played straight, which I do appreciate. And I love the last few minutes, as Joseph said. I like the way it ends on a serious note rather than a wink and a nod. So, and in other bits of humour, I do love I myself prefer a big fat cucumber line, which gets repeated a couple of times during the film. And I like that sequence where they are all eating the goat's eyes, which made me think that poor Justin would not get into this fraternity if you have to eat a goat's eye. Sorry, Justin.
I don't think they weren't actually goat's eyes. They were, because you could tell when they popped them in their mouths, they was obviously like grapes or something.
But you see, you wouldn't know that.
No.
So you'd probably just... You'd be the outsiders living in an apartment in the outside of town, and we'd all be in the sorority house.
I'd be
having pillow fights.
I'd be like that girl in The Initiation goes, "This is all bullshit. I'm out of here," and then goes home and washes her hair.
I wouldn't eat goat's eyes anyways. That's gross.
Sorry? Yeah, no.
Goat's eyes anyway. That's gross.
And also, it's probably unlikely any of us would get into sorority, even if you had like a Deirdre Barlow wig on, Eric. You probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I love the way they go bah as well when they're doing their initiation thing, and they all put their hands up to the side of their face, and that really reminded me of Tragedy by Steps. Now, Nathan and Joseph probably won't get that reference, but hopefully you will, Justin.
Unfortunately, Steps? I do. Yes.
Yes. There's a band called Steps. Yeah, they did a cover version of Tragedy by the Bee Gees, and the dance routine was moving your... Well, the only bit I remember was moving your hands up to your face like the girls do in the initiation ceremony. The downside...
I remember that.
Yeah. Apologise on behalf of your nation for Steps to Justin, please.
Oh, well, absolutely. They are absolutely awful. Although, I think you have to apologise for Boyzone and... what's the other one? The Cause and... What's the other one? There's Boyzone...
Westlife.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're a bunch of cunts, aren't they? Yes, well, I think as you should be. I
was just waiting for Justin to throw in a Toya there.
Well, I was going to say I do put my hand on my heart, and I apologise to the world for Toya. If I could go back in time, back to 1922 when she was born, then I would smother her in a crib, but I can't, so...
Oh, you can't do that.
You've not just been evil to me, you've been evil to babies everywhere. Shame on you.
Yeah,
anyway.
I can kill her because she wasn't killed, so you can't do it. That means you were never there.
Me?
So Toya lives.
Toya lives. Yes.
If you had a time machine to travel back and kill her, you couldn't because she wasn't killed by you. So if she's alive now, that means you never...
Oh my God, we're not going to go into this time crimes.
No.
What? Toya, trying to save her life here.
You're like time travel stuff's ridiculous.
You've got more chance of saving her career, Joseph. Anyway, so...
Anyway, sorry.
Sorry, Eric, I can't save her career.
No, I don't think...
Why is everyone ganging up on me now? I'm going to get back to Killer Party now.
Hey, I stood up for you in my 1981 segment.
You did. Thank you, Joseph.
I have to play... I'm the middle guy. I have to play both sides. I have to pitch you against each other.
Yeah.
I know. Well...
Anyway,
getting
back to Killer Party, I share the exact same sentiment as Justin. On the surface, the film seems to take place over a course of a couple of days, but then in the background you have it moving from Halloween to April Fool's Day. And you also have the fact that the house mother who was killed sort of near the start, you see her sort of decaying corpse later on, which means the film has taken place over the course of about 6 months, although that isn't really obvious, and it's very sloppily handled if that was the idea. The genre-to-genre hopping as well sometimes is a bit jarring. When it opens with that very cheesy funeral sequence, which is the movie within the movie, my heart dropped because I thought, oh my God, if this is the tone of the whole film, I'm going to absolutely hate this. But fortunately, they pull back from that. The deep sea diving outfit, can I ask a question? Does that appear anywhere in the film before it's donned by the killer? Because it just seems to appear out of nowhere and then disappear just as quickly.
That's the way it is. It's not. Yeah. You don't see it any other time in the movie.
It's not foreshadowed or anything. You don't see a party goer wearing it or... Yeah.
See, that's one thing you said, Eric, is that, there's a lot of comedy in Killer Party, but I think, a lot of the murders are played straight. And I think
they are. I mean, it is.
It kind of offsets all the comedy, and it kind of, gives it a more, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I think it works that the murders are serious while there's...
The comedy in it doesn't bother me too much. Like, when it opens with that very overly comedic section of that sort of set my alarm bells ringing, but fortunately it doesn't follow that track for the rest of the film.
Do you mean the switcheroos? I mean,
no, just the film within the film, the funeral sequence where that really camp priest and
you had a problem with that.
The Wizard of Oz.
Because when I was watching that for the first time, I thought, oh, if this is the tone of the entire film, I'm going to have a real problem with it. But fortunately, it's not. So I do think it's a solid enough movie, not a classic, not in my top 10 by a long shot. But I mean, I did enjoy it, and I'm glad I revisited it.
Yeah, cool. It's just interesting about the killer's outfit, because I took that as basically a comment on the ridiculousness of say, for instance, the miner's outfit in My Bloody Valentine, which isn't ridiculous, but taking it to that next level, because obviously a diving suit, was it a diving bell suit or whatever, however you describe it, would be the worst possible thing for a killer to wear, wouldn't it? Because it would be very
they're
heavy.
designed to sink to the bottom of the ocean. They're very heavy. I don't imagine anyone could really get any kind of mileage out of a suit like that.
No, absolutely. So I kind of took that as a thing. I mean, as a nod to that it was kind of ridiculous. And I agree with Erik. The killings are kind of not, are done relatively, got a bit of a nod and a wink. That girl who says, "Have you got a hammer to get the nail out of her shoe?" And then he obviously, or she, or because obviously we are going to spoil it because we always do. But the killer turns out to be one of the sorority girls who's been possessed. I mean, you never know whether or not she's actually in the suit or the suit is possessed by something. But you presume it probably is her in the suit. But yeah, it was kind of that was a bit ridiculous. But I kind of took with the murders. It was almost like a Stars on 45 thing where they kind of suddenly had all the murders happen in 5-10 minutes, and it's basically boom, 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 isn't it? You kind of like one death follows another. There's not even any little scenes in between. Also, there was kind of strange. Again, one of the things that kind of really smacks of studio messing or something messing is the fact that, oops, sorry about that. There was some of the characters just vanish, don't they? I mean, it's quite realistic, I kind of guess. But one of the main characters is the guy who's not the love interest, but he's the dorky guy who was also in Just Before Dawn, and Martin, yeah, and he's in the movie a lot. And then at the end of the movie, he just leaves the party with another girl and goes, and he's drunk, and then he leaves, and you never see him again. So that kind of I thought was a bit odd, and
the same with the character of Harrison, who is mentioned a bit early on, but then it appears out of nowhere as if he's a main character towards the end.
Yeah.
Now that you guys are talking about this, with the characters disappearing and kind of interlocking characters going here and going there, it kind of reminds me of Girls' Night Out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's it's definitely the feel that I got from it, and I'd love to find out more about a film like Girls' Night Out, because I get the impression that was probably a bit muddled. But it's not the only slasher movie. I mean, a film like The Prowler has characters that are just like, I think the necking couple in the basement at the dance, they just vanish as well, and you never find out what happens to them, and it's just kind of so whether stuff got cut out.
Question for you guys, actually. Justin, you were talking about how you didn't know if the suit was possessed or if it was her inside the suit just a second ago. See, I wonder if she was only possessed at the end, because there's never really any indication that she's like, hey, I keep blacking out and not remembering anything.
Well, it shows her throughout, right? Like little glimpses, like she'll like when they had goat night. And a few of the things happen, like her head kind of tilts back, and then she makes this weird face, and she has those contacts in. And then later, when they're at the party and Vivia's setting up her guillotine prank, it shows her like over near the light switch, and she starts like freaking out again, and her eyes look all weird and possessed. Then too.
That's the thing I'm talking about. Is that she never she does those things, but she never gives any indication like, hey guys, I'm. One minute I'm bubbly and the next I don't remember. Can you help? I mean, no one ever really says anything. So I'm wondering if she was only possessed in spots, if the spirit was kind of like jumping into her.
I kind of guess that
jumping out and killing people.
Yeah,
I never really knew for sure.
No, I mean, it's kind of by the end. I love the bit when she's crawling along the ceiling, which is obviously upside down, because they've, you can tell that what they've done is they've used about 40 litres of hard rock hairspray on her, because she's obviously her hair's sticking up and it's supposed to be upside down. They turn the camera around and she's kind of crawling along the ceiling, but her hair is just stuck there solid, so it's not moving at all.
She's normal, but then when it's like she's supposedly upside down, it's like crunchy as it can be.
And as the more you can tell, the more possessed she gets, the bigger her hair gets. Like it becomes like a big bell.
That's true. It's like there's something there,
Yeah.
She really reminded me in her possessed form of Juliette Mills in Beyond the Door.
Okay, it's not. That's not a film I've seen, but I do keep on meaning to watch it, because
there's a fantastic what the fuck moment in Beyond the Door where a guy is harassed by a musician on the street who plays the flute with his nose.
Really? I shall have to have a look at that. But I love the bit in.
I haven't seen that. I'll have to check that out.
No, I want to watch that as well. But in Killer Party, I think I mentioned it, but when Jennifer does turn away and she goes boss-eyed, which I thought would have been worthy. I imagine if Dana Chemical couldn't have done that better herself.
Chemical? Dana Chemical?
Kimmel. Sorry, yes. I was tongue-tied there. But Well, I mean, shall we come back and talk some more about it? Because I've got some behind-the-scenes stuff, which you guys probably have some as well. So, should we go to the interview with Elaine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nathan, do you want to introduce that?
I was able to contact Elaine Wilkes, who played Phoebe in the movie, and she had a lot of interesting stuff to say. So,
well, here we go.
There are a lot of people that are dead. Maybe everybody. Wait, where's Jennifer? I don't know. They don't know she's dead. Maybe there is a maniac. He could still be in the house. I gotta find him. No. Wait. If you go out there, you could be next.
All right, hello, everybody. This is Nathan, and I'm here with Elaine Wilkes from Killer Party, and she has graciously agreed to do an interview. And first off, I want to thank you, Elaine, for being willing to do this interview today.
Oh, you're so sweet to ask.
I guess my first question is, how did you get involved with Killer Party?
You know what happens is, I was a actress, and you audition for parts. And so you go on an audition, and then you go on callbacks. I'm trying to remember the auditions for that one. You just audition, and then they keep calling you back, and then finally they tell you got it. And we went and shot in Canada. I was in L.A., and I think it was in Toronto that we shot it. So we were all in Toronto. And what was so cool about it is that we all got along so well because we were all none of us were from Toronto except some of the smaller parts were from Toronto, but like people who had maybe more parts were from Los Angeles. So we all got along so well. Because none of us had, we weren't going home afterward. We were all going to the hotel. So we'd all hang out with each other after the hotel. And everybody got along so well. It was incredible.
Yeah, I think that really comes across on screen, too. I know a lot of people that are fans like me think that the whole friendship aspect in the movie seems very real.
You know what? It really was. We all just joked and laughed. I mean, we all got along so well. And that friendship part, that wasn't even acted. That was just us getting along. That was what we just all liked each other. And it was funny because none of us knew each other. We all met at the movie. And for some reason, we just all hit it off. That we all really genuinely liked each other.
That's great.
At least I liked everyone. And we just had a lot of fun. We really had fun doing the movie.
Were there any fun behind-the-scenes info or anything funny that might have happened when the cameras weren't rolling that you recall?
You know what's so funny is when they shoot the movie, they have to shoot scenes. And so, they have to have the camera and the lights all set up in one direction, and then they have to shoot the reaction and turn the lights all around and turn the camera in the other direction. And sometimes it can take 2 hours or 3 hours to light a scene. So what's so funny about it is let's say we go in the bathroom and we have to open up and there's a body in the tub or something. We open the door and the camera's facing us, so we look and there's nothing we're reacting to, so there's just an empty tub there. And it was so they go, okay, now there's going to be a body in the tub, so react to the body in the tub. And then the whole ending part, I never saw Joanna's, I saw one part where she was with me, but there was actually a stunt double. So there was actually stunt doubles used in the movie. So when the whole part where we're running out and at the end where we're leaving and trying to get out of the house and everything, all that was done where they'd go, okay, now turn around and she's going to be up there. So look up there. So there'd be nobody I never even saw Joanna because it was done it wasn't done in real time. So they would go, okay, now do it again. And then one scene, I remember they wrote and someone was supposed to die or something. And so we were all really crying and everything. And then it was a joke or something. They changed it in the editing after the movie. So it's it looks wow, they're really overreacting for that scene, but really they just changed. So they actually changed the scripts after the movie was made, some of the scenes after the movie was made. we were reacting to, we didn't even know what we were looking at or what Joanna would be like or what she was doing or anything. So I didn't know what we were reacting to until I actually saw the movie.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. It's like you see the movie and you're thinking, okay, that's what I was reacting to during that scene.
Exactly. What had happened and stuff like that. I'd never seen anything. Because a lot of the times we were doing our scene and then they would turn the lights so we would go and do the other part. So we would kind of go home and because that's how so it was funny that way. So a lot of the movie is like, oh, I didn't know I was reacting to that. So that was really funny.
And one thing I noticed towards the end is during a lot of the death scenes, it looks like a lot of stuff was cut. That the censors may have cut a lot of the death scenes, out or made them off screen. Do you recall any scenes in particular that were cut that maybe you were a part of that didn't end up in the finished film?
You're right. I think a lot was cut. Because what happens is when you do a movie, they do it, and then when they're editing together, sometimes like this just doesn't work when you actually do it, or it worked really well, and we have to make the movie this length, so we'll cut out this scene. So it's funny, even like I do commercials, and I'll do commercials, and we'll spend a day shooting a commercial, and I'll be in it for like a second. It's because it's everything. What you get from the first draft to what ends up on screen or on TV or whatever is totally sometimes different than what you were expecting. So there was a lot of things. It was edited much differently, and they keep, I didn't even know the video part. Like I never saw the video part. Yeah, there was a lot that from the original script. I wish I had the original script. I would send you one, but I think I got rid of it in a move. Otherwise, I would send you the original. I wish I had that.
That would be so great to have.
I know. I'm so bummed I don't have it because I was moving, and I thought, I had so many scripts because I've done a lot of movies and stuff, and I just thought, it was like, too many. So it's like boxes of scripts. And I thought, have you ever got a hold of Joanna or Sherry? Because I bet they're the type that would save that stuff.
Oh, I would love to. I tried to find them, but I can't locate them. I know Joanna did some soap opera work.
Right.
But I'm not sure what ever happened with Sherry.
I know, it's funny. We were friends for quite some time after the movie, and then everybody started moving and stuff like that, and we just kind of lost contact. But I love those guys, and I bet they're the types that save the script most definitely. Yeah. And so I'll see. I would, you never know how something is if I ever run into them. And I bet Ralph Seymour would have saved his script. Sherry and Joanna are the type that would save the script, and especially Joanna. It's like if I ever see those guys, I'll definitely get a script for you. Now I'm bummed because there was another person too. There's a couple people who have interviewed me about the movie and would love the script, and I was like, I wish I had it for you. But I just never saved it.
Yeah, because I can imagine the script probably is way different than what the finished product turned out to be.
Very much so, yes, that's correct. Very much so. That happens pretty, unless the writer is really, really good and the director. Sometimes with movies, everything kind of, it's maybe like when you make a recipe or something and you think, I'm going to make this, and all of a sudden you look in the cabinet and you go, we have ginger. And then it's kind of like that when you do a screenplay. Everything just keeps changing and evolving as the scripts, because some days things turn out better than other days,
Yes. Yeah, I can understand that. On the Internet Movie Database, there's a piece of trivia which I always thought was kind of suspect. It says that the movie started filming in 1978. Is there any truth in that?
No, I don't think that is true. No, that's not true. No, that can't be true. No. That's not a fact. That's not true at all.
Because, everything about the movie just screams 80s to me. None of it seems 70s at all, so I didn't think that was true.
Yeah, that is not true. No, not at all, no.
Do you know
that, no.
Do you know if Killer Party ever got a theatrical release?
I don't know. I think it did, but for like a weekend. You know what I mean? Like all over a weekend, 2 weekends or something. I think it did.
Yeah, just maybe not a...
Yeah, you know what happened with... Because I never really stayed in... Like, I was so busy at the time. I think what happened with that is it took a while for them to edit it and re-edit it and all that. I think that's what happened with that movie. There was a lot of editing with it. You know, and they kept... You know, I think it's funny, with movies they do a lot of testing sometimes, and maybe they did it with this movie, where they'll test the movie with audience and say, do you like this, and do you want more of this character, and do you want... I'm in LA, and you can actually get paid to go watch TV shows, and then they have like a group of 12 people come in a room, and they say, okay, what character did you like, and what didn't you like, and who did you like, and do you want to see more of this person? And so they actually create their TV shows around what people are saying in these focus groups, and you get paid maybe $50 an hour or something to go and watch TV and give your opinion. I actually find it to be so much fun that I love doing it. I would probably do it for free because I think it's so much fun. And it's like the whole room discusses the show and what they thought of it and what they liked and didn't like, and you actually can have your input on to the and it actually there's like a window, and there's producers and directors, and are looking into, and you can't see them, but they can see you, and they're all looking to hear what people say. They all want to know honest feedback of what people are saying about their TV show or movie.
Well, that would be fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to do that myself.
And while you're watching the show, they have a little button, a little control knob at your seat. And what the control knob does is you can turn it up or down as to how much you like it and how much you don't like it. So, like, if there's a scene and you really like it, you can turn the control knob all the way to the end. But if you're not liking someone, then you can turn it down. And then they chart, like how, so they can see, like, who's really liking what scene and what person. So it's really interesting. So a lot of the movies and TV shows aren't just done like, oh, we'll just do it and see how it goes. With some TV shows and movies, there's a lot of testing that's involved. And then they release, especially for new TV shows, because they really want to have a good shot out the gate.
Well, that's really cool. Yeah, I definitely would like to do that.
If you ever come to California, email me and I'll give you the name of the place that does it. Or I have to look it up. I don't know offhand because I haven't done it in years, but it's a really fun thing to do.
Oh, that'd be great. I definitely would do that.
Very fun. And then they also have movies where they give you free movies before it's released, and they have people in LA all the time stand in front of a movie theater, and they give you a 8x10 piece of paper, and they say, here's a piece of paper, and if you want to come to this free movie screening, you get it for free if you let us know what you thought of the movie. So you have a lot of, you can do a ton, and then actually I get free emails that if you want to go see this movie, we'll give it to you for free. And usually really good movies, too, if you just tell us what you think.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
One thing I've wondered about with Killer Party is, like working with the director, William Fruitt, did he let you have any... Oh, I'm sorry.
Killer Party, the name was changed. When we made it, it was called April Fool's Day. And then they changed the name to Killer Party. Like, after we had shot the movie and everything, they changed it to... My original script says April Fool's Day.
Oh, okay. So they changed it after you already finished filming?
Yeah, the title was changed, correct.
Oh, okay. Probably, I know that a movie came out called April Fool's Day in 1986. So that may have been the reason they changed it, to avoid, I guess, confusion.
No, I think they just changed it because, I don't think it had to do with that. I think they just changed it because Killer Party is a better name. And so sometimes what happens is all of a sudden you go, oh, you know what, this is a better name for it. I was in several movies like that where the script had one title, and then as they shoot it, all of a sudden you just think of a better title, and you go, oh, this is so much catchier. Killer Party says it more. It says it better. So I think they just thought, oh, this is a better name, and then they changed the name.
I agree with them. I kind of like Killer Party as a title better. Did Bill Pruitt let you have any input to your character? Did you get to ad-lib anything, or did you just follow the script that you had at the time?
You know, I hate to say something about him because it's so funny. We kind of did, since we all got along, he liked that we could add stuff in and we could ad-lib and stuff like that. But maybe it was just me, but I always got a feeling he didn't like me, so I always felt uneasy around him or something. Because I would do a scene and he'd go, okay, next. Like, he never was like, oh, that was great, or that was fun, you know what I mean?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'd like bring all this stuff, like I'd do more than the script, you know, because I'd try and think, okay, how can we make this more fun and more real so it feels real? And so he would just go, okay, next thing. Like, he never really said anything. And sometimes, like, one time I remember we were going up the stairs and I tripped up the stairs and fell down. And I think I think sometimes mistakes are funny. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so then I just laughed and got up and started doing the scene. He's like, cut, cut, cut. You know, like, wouldn't you think it's funny if I fall? Like, you know, like, I think that probably would have got a big laugh. I did it by accident, but I think that would have got a big laugh. But he, you know, when people fall down, it's usually funny, actually. You know, and they're not hurt. It's usually kind of funny. But
Right.
he, like, cut, you know, do it over. You know, what's wrong with you? Walk around or something. So, I don't know. He was, he was very neutral. He was very neutral.
Was he like that with everybody, or did you feel it more towards you?
It seemed like he and Joanna got along really well because Joanna was really, really into it. And obviously, because she had the biggest part, you know, it was up to her to make the whole thing real, you know. And Joanna really, I have to give Joanna so much credit. When I saw what she did, I was like, I think she did a fantastic job, you know, for what that was. I think she did a really, really good job. And so I think he was maybe closer with Joanna. But he just was a little bit more neutral toward me. I don't know. It was interesting. I never really felt, I don't know, I can't remember him like going, oh wow, that was great, you know, like he was a neutral type guy. And I like better when people are like, I didn't like that, do this, or I like that, do this. You know what I mean? Like I've worked with like John Hughes, who was in 16 Candles, and he would just have makeup stuff, and he's like, okay, that's great, let's do this. And, you know, like he had so much enthusiasm, and that kind of feeds my enthusiasm, and then it helps me. But when people are just like, okay, you know, you're like, well, do you want anything different? Was that fine? Was it? So he was a little bit more neutral. And I don't know, that's just what I remember of him.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I've always kind of wondered about him as well, what he was like as a director. So that's very interesting to hear how he was on the set of Killer Party.
Yeah, he wasn't like, he's very understated. So, like I say, like John Hughes was like really overstated. Like, oh, this is cool. How about, you know, do what you want. Let's see. You know, like, okay, great. You know, he was really over the top. Where this director was just a little understated. Like, okay. You know, just very I wish I could think of a better word. Very blasé, but I think that's his personality. Like, just very, okay, let's go to the next scene. Let's go, you know, kind of like that.
Oh, yeah. Do you get people approaching you about Killer Party very often?
Yeah, I do actually. It's funny. I've done a lot of movies, and people will remember certain movies and go, oh, what, you know, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Definitely. I mean, for other movies too, I was playing craps, and this one like, I remember you, you're, you know, Yeah, and it's funny, even commercials, people, I'll be in like this commercial for a second, and people will be like, oh, you were in the, where my mom won't even recognize me. And then they have other, so it's really funny how what people will remember and will choose to recognize it. It's funny.
Yeah. Did you have any idea there were so many Killer Party fans?
No, and then when the internet happened, all these people email me all the time. I love Killer Party. It's like, I had no idea.
Yeah, and then suddenly, like, when the internet happens, you have so many people contacting you, and you probably were thinking, I didn't realize there were this many people that love this movie so much.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's so funny. It's a lot of fun.
Let's see, what else? When's the last time you saw the film?
You know, not from a long time ago, actually. I just saw some clips on the internet because someone asked me something about the movie. And I saw some clips and I thought, oh, that's right. I mean, now I have to tell you, that was such a fun film. It was so fun. We just laughed so much on that movie. It's funny because it's a horror movie, but we really and truly laughed so much. And the last scene, I remember we were shooting that like at 3 in the morning or something, because that was a night shoot. So you shoot an 8-hour day, and it's all done by rules, like according to Screen Actors Guild. So if you have a night shoot, then you usually begin like at 9 at night or something, and then you have to work all through the night. So I think that last shot was done at like 3 or 4 in the morning, because it was night shoot.
Is that the shot where your character's in the ambulance and Sherry's being put in there?
With Sherry and everything, yeah.
That's kind of a creepy ending to that movie, because the movie kind of has like a kind of a comedy feel to it, and the ending is kind of creepy.
Totally. It really is. Like, it was like, yeah, and I think it's kind of like it got edited, so that's why it changed and had both or something. You know what I mean? It was, you're right, the end is like a little shocking. And, you know, they had those contacts. They put these contacts in my eyes, and I could not get those contacts in my eyes because they had to cover your entire eyeball. And it did creepy, like when you look in the mirror and you see, like, your eyes, like, that with no black, no color. Like, it was all just blue or whatever it was. You know, those funny-looking contacts.
Uh-huh.
And I couldn't get those in my eyes because they covered the entire, and they'd be like, come on, you have to put it in your eyes. And I'm like, I couldn't, like my eye would be, you know, and then they said, well, we'll have the eye doctor put it in your eyes. And like, when you see a finger coming at you, your natural instinct is to blink, you know what I mean? And they're like, don't blink. And it's like, but I see a finger coming at me. I can't, like those contacts were so hard for me to get in my eye because they covered the whole eyeball. And it was just so hard to put those in. And the guy, like, when he put them in, he would do it. So I don't know, your normal instinct is to just, like, close your eyes because you see something coming at your eyes. Anyway, those contacts were a problem for me. Were a challenge.
Yes, and Joanna had to wear them, too, for a while as well.
Mm.
So I bet.
I think it was easier for her because I think she wore contacts. So I think for her, some reason it was easier.
Oh.
I'm not sure, but I remember she didn't have as much. For me, I've never had anything put in my eye before. It was just awkward, and they were really, since they covered so much, they were bigger than normal contacts. So they were just, it was weird to wear them.
And your character technically survives the movie along with Sherry. Would you be in a Killer Party 2 if they were to make a sequel?
Oh, I don't know. I doubt they'd make a sequel because, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's so funny, but it's, yeah, we just had such a fun time. It'd be nice to see everybody. It was really, really a nice time. And I think we shot for like maybe 4 or 6 weeks in Canada. Maybe it was 4 weeks in Canada, 3 weeks, and I think how long that was. But for some time, like maybe a month in Canada, and it was just really a nice time. And the crew was nice. The people who did makeup and hair were great. You know, everything was just there's something about that movie where there was a great camaraderie.
Yeah. And that'd be very important to have on a set. You know, you want everybody to get along with each other.
I know. And that's why, and we just had that from, I've been on sets where nobody gets along. And, I'm in the middle, like, not that I don't get along with people, but we're, like, I've seen stars not get along with each other. And then they act like there's nothing wrong, and then they go to their separate ways. So I've seen a lot of that. So, like, to have that chemistry where everybody gets along is quite...
If you ever come across that script, that would be awesome. Or if you see Joanna or Sherry.
If I ever see those guys, I'll ask them. I wish they were on Facebook because I would ask them.
Yes, there's a lot of Joanna Johnsons on there, but I couldn't really find her, and I couldn't find Sherry at all.
I think it's Sherry Willis Birch. I think her last name was Birch. She was married, and her name was Birch, B-U-R-C-H, or B-I-R-C-H. And no, I can't believe I threw that out. It's just I was moving so much, and I had so many scripts that I know, because there's some other people, it would be such a joy to give it to them because they like it and it'd be so fun. So I had no idea. So there's other scripts too that I saved. So that's how it goes, I guess. But, yeah, because it'd be interesting to see the difference in what the script said and how it's different. Like when you read it on the page, it's nothing like what had happened.
Oh yeah, I'm very curious as to how different it was.
Yeah, for me, I was even surprised when I saw the film. And especially Joanna, I have to say, to her credit, did a lot because she from what the script said, it just said, you look over and has demon eyes or something like that. It's all it said. It go into details. So it was up to her to make all that stuff. And I remember they did make a scene where they made the room go upside down. So when she was crawling, it looked like she was upside down or going. There's some part of the movie where because they made a room look like upside down or something. So she was walking, so it looked like she was crawling on the ceiling or something.
Oh, yes. I remember that scene.
That was just the way they made a room. So she was actually crawling normal, and they did something, and I remember seeing the scene thinking, wow, that's interesting. So they did different effects like that. But they never really said what she did or how she becomes possessed so it just said, really vague, like Joanna is possessed or Joanna or something, something, whatever her name was. It was so vague, so she brought all that to that, that one part where all this stuff is coming out of her mouth and, she's doing that, she brought all that to the movie. None of that was in the script.
Oh wow, that is really cool info. Because I know there's that scene where she's climbing on the ceiling and they have her hair all spiked up straight.
Oh yeah. I remember we were. What's so funny about that is we'll eat lunch, and so while we're eating lunch, her hair is all spiked up. So because it takes a while to do each scene, so they had her hair spiked up like that. So it's so funny because you see her eating lunch with their hair like that.
Oh yeah.
So it's really funny because it's nice hair, Joanna. So that's what's really, so it's interesting because when they're not on the set, and just eating lunch or something, they're still like that. When we had, there were a lot of people who had blood on them and stuff. So there you are eating, your lunch, your dinner with blood all over them, And what was funny too is we'd go, oh my God, everyone's dead. And we'd walk in and everyone would be dead. And then the director would go, cut, and everyone would sit up. It's everyone would sit up, get some water, start talking, and he's like, okay, now everyone has, next shot, because they do a different angle. So then he goes, okay, next shot, and everyone falls back down dead. And then when he says cut, everyone gets up. And so it was funny, when you're there watching it, it's funny because you see, everyone was just, he goes, okay, ready, and everyone starts settling down, and they're all dead, and then you walk in. And he goes, so it's funny that way that you see people, at lunchtime with like blood all over their head while they're eating a chicken sandwich. So that's really funny, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I definitely thank you a lot. You've been an awesome interviewee. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, likewise. It was really sweet. Like I say, it was a very great experience, a lot of fun, and totally different from the script. And Ralph Seymour, did you ever get a hold of him?
I looked for him on Facebook, but I didn't see him.
He's not the type that would do Facebook.
Oh, okay. I just
older than a lot of us.
Yeah, I would love to talk to him because I think his character was hilarious in Killer Party, but I don't know where to find him.
Right, and what happened with Martin Hewitt?
Oh, that's another good one. I couldn't find him either. I've been having a really tough time trying to track people down.
And then there was the other guy with the blonde hair who was my boyfriend. Woody
Brown.
Yeah, Woody Brown. Did you ever track him?
And I looked up Woody Brown on Facebook as well, but it brought up a ton of Woody Browns, so I got to go through them.
Same with Joe Johnson. I bet there's 4 billion. There should be some easier way to find people on Facebook.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I
With
wish.
common name. Like you can just, Joanna Johnson has to be the most common. I wish you could say Joanna Johnson Killer Party, or it's something to narrow it down to find them a lot easier. Because it's like but it was mainly the girls, like it was mainly me, Sherry, and Joanna that got along really well, and Ralph hung with us also, but Ralph and Sherry got along really well. Those two were buddies. And I guess Ralph had a very, believe it or not, an extensive drama training. So he trained at Juilliard or something like that, like some, big deal training. And so he was more trained than everybody, I think. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate your time as well.
Okay, well, take care. I hope this helped you out.
All right, thanks. Have a good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
You shouldn't have done it, Vivia. You got him mad with all that haunting stuff. Vivia, he took your best friend, and he made you pay.
Hi, it's Kimberly Beck from Friday the 13th, Part 4, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
All right, and that was Elaine Wilkes. Thank you very much, Elaine, for being willing to do that interview. And I apologize for the bad quality in the interview. That's just kind of the way it is with Skype sometimes,
She lives
That's
in
what
Germany,
happens.
so...
Does it?
I thought she was in Germany.
That was Robin Malloy from House of Row.
Okay. Where does she live?
She lives in California.
Oh, well, odd.
There you go. Nice. Keeping your finger on the pulse there, Joseph. Yes. So, Nathan, have you got any behind-the-scenes facts or anything for us about Killer Party?
I feel like that actually I covered most of them at the Elaine interview. The biggest one that I brought up was that the original script is completely different from the finished product, and I would give anything to get my hands on that original script. I want to know what they originally wanted to go for with that movie. And anything else, it's just like I said earlier, the IMDb trivia section is wrong. I mean, you can tell that that's not a late 70s movie. Everything about it screams 80s.
Absolutely. It's going to, there's no way that was 78, was there? I don't know how you get those things changed, but where that came from, I've no idea.
And as far as the cast goes, I did try to get in touch with Martin Hewitt. I believe he's a house painter now. Sherry Willis Birch is a teacher, but I could not find her either. I wish I could, because Vivia is probably one of my favorite characters in the whole movie.
And she's in isn't she in Final Exam as well?
Yes, she is. Let's see, and I think that's about all I've got, really.
Well, Martin Hewitt was in Endless Love, wasn't he, with Brooke Shields, and he was quite the hunky pin-up for a while, he's kind of top billed, wasn't he, in Killer Party? So I'm surprised he hasn't had more of a career, really.
Yeah, me too. Actually, I thought he was really good. You know, just like everybody. Everybody did a great job in that movie.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I've got a few bits and pieces, but I know I'm always rabbiting on about stuff. So, what about you two, Erik and Joseph?
Well, I had one more.
Oh yeah, sorry.
And that was about Joanna Johnson, who, you guys were saying the ending with her hair the way it is so cheesy, but I really have to give Joanna credit because she really just went for it. You know, there's not many actresses that would be willing to go all out. Like even in the interview with Elaine, she's like, a lot of stuff Joanna did, sticking her tongue out and drooling all over the place. That was her idea. That wasn't even in the script. So, good for her for being willing to do that. And she actually went on to a decent career in soap operas. She was in one of my favorite soap operas, The Bold and the Beautiful, which I still watch. So, I would love to have talked to her about Bold and the Beautiful and Killer Party, but I can't find you, Joanna. I don't know where you're at now.
It's all those hairspray fumes, I imagine.
I don't really have any behind-the-scenes stuff, but I do want to say that Martin Hewitt was in one of my favorite 80s comedies, Fletch, with Chevy Chase.
Okay, cool. How about you, Joseph? Erik, sorry.
I got just two snippets of information. One is that Warner Archive are releasing it on an on-demand basis on DVD, which, unfortunately for us, Justin, they don't ship those outside the US.
Oh, no, sorry, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's you request it, they burn it to a DVD, give you, print out a sleeve and send it off to you. And they're also doing that with Night School, aka Terrorize, the Rachel Ward film. The other bit of information I have is regarding White Sister, who are the band that are in the rock video in the sort of Double Bluff opening sequence. They are actually a real band. This would probably corroborate the theory that was made in 1984 because they split up shortly after signing to EMI in 1984, and that's from their official fan site because they're back together now. And they also had a song on the soundtrack to Fright Night. So April is the song they play in the film, and that is from their 1986 album Fashioned by Passion, which was released long after they split up. And you can get it on iTunes if you are so inclined. €1.29 in Ireland, probably 99p to you, Justin, if you want to download it to your iPod.
I probably won't.
Do you not like hair metal now?
I'd rather hammer nails into my ears or listen to Toyah even. So,
have you never been to a Dokken concert?
I must say I haven't actually. No, it's probably not my. I did enjoy Blood Tracks for the reason that hair metal band was being killed off, but I've never ever really enjoyed listening to the music, I must admit. So
I like hair metal. What can I say?
Me too.
I love it. It's so great.
April, why do you play?
Warriors, don't want to dream no more. See, I had to
well, anyway,
hits?
That's Dokken for everybody.
Yeah.
No accounting for taste. Anyway, so shall I kind of? I haven't got much more actually because I've got a few bits and pieces. It was just one going back to. Well, actually, before we do that, obviously the song April was obviously referring to what the original idea for the film was, and it was the whole idea was going to be the original April Fools or Fool's Day. And what's the irony actually is because it was made in '84. Is that if this film had actually, if Warner Brothers had put this film out as, because they the one who put the money up for this film, if they put it out, it would have beat Paramount's April Fool's Day and Slaughter High, which is also filmed as April Fool's Day. It was a precursor to all of those, so it really missed the boat. And now, what was interesting, I thought, was because Warner Brothers they put the money up for it. But they said they saw the script, which William Fruitt said was vicious, was his words. The script was vicious. And Warner Brothers apparently clutched their pearls and said, we don't make this kind of movie, which is kind of strange because they put out Eyes of a Stranger a few years before, well, like maybe 4 years before, which is quite it's very cheesy, but it's a pretty sleazy film. So they'd obviously changed a bit in those kind of intervening years. But my understanding was the producers who wanted to make a straight up slasher movie, and the scriptwriter was Barney Cohen, who wrote Friday the 13th Part 4, and also one of the Happy Hooker films. So he had quite a varied career. But he said that he originally wrote it as a slasher movie, but I don't think William Fruitt wasn't actually particularly interested in making a gory movie. So I think even though quite a lot of gore was shot, it wasn't actually that much was cut out because I don't think he was that interested in it. And he wanted to add more and more comedy. And so Barney Cohen said he went along with that, and he said he thought they were going a bit too far, but then they decided to go hell for leather and go for the really ridiculous kind of sort of ending with the possessed sorority girl. So originally, it would say that's why I'd love to see what the original script was if it was a straight ahead slasher movie. That would have been sort of really interesting. Now the film. I think what I've got seen various things saying it was filmed in summer of '84, but also seen someone saying it began shooting on October the 22nd of '84. I think it's probably more likely it was then, because all the way through it, people are dressed in winter clothes, aren't they, more or less? Apart from the girls in the hot tub, which we didn't speak about, being attacked by bees. Which I love that bit, because we didn't talk about Paul Bartel very much, did we? But obviously he was in Chopping Mall. And also famously in Eating Raoul, which is a great sort of black comedy.
And Piranha.
One
of my favourites.
Yeah, and I love the shot when another one of the pranks where they're doing showing students the downsides, the dangers of hazing, and the frat boys have basically let these bees loose while girls are in the hot tub. So of course these girls are running around, their towels are falling off, their boobs are flapping around left, right, and centre. And so they film this, and then they cut that into this scene where Paul Bartel is trying to stop it, and he's trying to put his hands over the projector, but it looks like the silhouettes of his hands on screen looks like he's trying to grab hold of these naked girls as they're running away from him, which I thought was actually quite well done. That was pretty good. So, but yeah, the film, I think, was picked up. I think Warner Brothers basically didn't like what they saw. Not quite sure why they actually financed it, because it didn't really make much sense. But they did. But it sat on the shelf and got bunged out in a limited release in 1986 by MGM, who put it out in the States, I think, on VHS, or certainly in the UK. The VHS that I have is an MGM release. But I think the film barely got into cinemas, into theatres. I think I'd looked at Variety, and it uses words like Killer Party slight debut, and what's the other one? It says Killer Party 5 sites awful, $900. So it made $900 over a weekend in five cinemas. So it didn't set the world alight at all. But interestingly, it was out at the same time as Demons and also Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. So it kind of disappeared into obscurity, and then it probably... did it get put out by MGM in the States on video?
It was on Key Video.
On Key Video, okay, all right. Because quite often what happens is for instance, for Friday the 13th, the original one, it was put out in the UK by Warner Brothers, ironically, because then they released it uncut to UK video, whereas I think it was cut on video just a little bit in America, and that's why there's always the R-rated, slightly censored version for a long, long time until the last couple of years. So this is what quite often happens: is different companies pick up rights for foreign distribution. So MGM. Hey
Justin, I'm looking at this. I'm sorry. MGM owned Key Home Video. MGM UA owned Key Home Video.
Right.
So
Okay.
it wasn't.
So that makes sense, doesn't it? There's a couple of other little bits. It's just some of the people we talked about who were in it, and obviously Sherry Willis Birch was played the Dippy Janet in Final Exam. Terry Hawkes was in Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2. Ralph Seymour, obviously, we spoke about, who was quite a major part in this, but he's the one who gets a machete to the stomach in Just Before Dawn. But also the guy, because there's the two frat brothers, there's the fat frat brother, if I can say that right, where they dress as bees, and the thin one with glasses, and he was Ed in Terror Train. And of course, William Fruitt directed Funeral Home with Leslie Donaldson, which we've covered previously in the show. And one of the things I just saw, just an aside, but Paul Bartel's character was called Professor Zito, I believe, and that was a nod to Joseph Zito, who directed Friday the 13th Part 4, which again was obviously written by the person who wrote Killer Party. So yeah, well that's pretty much everything really. I kind of think, is there anything else we want to add? So that's a resounding
I don't
no.
really have anything else to say. I think I've covered everything I want to say.
I like the artwork for it.
Yeah, the artwork.
I do too, with the skeleton and holding the
like they're dancing.
dance. Right, yeah.
What's the tagline on the key
It's
video?
by the end of the night, some of the girls were dead on their feet, and it's also another tagline that says "dedicated to the class of '86."
Oh,
I love that tagline.
Yeah, that's.
I wanted that one to win the tagline contest at the Body Count Continues, but it didn't.
The cover really reminds me of, I don't know if it's similar, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but Night of the Creeps. Does that have similar artwork, or am I imagining it? The film in general sort of reminds...
Yeah, I think it's got... Was that painted cover, isn't it?
Night of the Creeps, it does have the guy like in a suit, like going to a dance. You know, like he's... What is he, like standing outside a window, I think?
Yeah, it says, good news, your date's here. Bad news,
the bad news is he's dead. Yeah.
Because there's a guy, I can't remember, I don't know who he is, I have to look him up, but there's a guy that did a lot of those kind of painterly video covers in the 80s. Because in the UK, we had a guy, he's still doing stuff now, he did a very famous cover for The Evil Dead. But in the States, there's a guy who did those kind of covers that were similar in some ways to the ones for like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars, the late Star Wars movies, where not the most recent ones, but they're kind of like painted ones for the Spielberg movies. And he did like kind of a lower rent, but still very good ones. And my favourite one is for the lamp or the outing. I don't know if you've ever seen, it's kind of quasi slasher from '87. I just bought a copy off eBay, actually, the poster, and it's brilliant poster image because it's got like 4 teens screaming with the lamp in front of them and then the demon behind them, but it's painted in really kind of nice kind of way. And that was he did lots of kind of video covers in the 80s, and I mean you just don't get that now, do you? You wouldn't go in and find a slasher movie, a horror movie, or any movie, to be honest, now, would you? Apart from maybe animation, with a painted cover. It's kind of,
see, that's why I like
art,
the Arrow DVD releases, because they're going back to the old ways of artwork.
Yeah, the Slaughter High one is fantastic. I really like that.
Oh
That's
God, that is really good.
That is really good art. Yeah,
I wish I could draw like that. I'd kill to be able to draw like that.
That's pretty
the
good.
Night of the Creeps artwork I was thinking of was the original UK VHS cover, which I think is different. It has a skeletal hand breaking through a window and trying to turn a doorknob from the inside.
Yeah,
I remember that one.
Yeah. I think it got re-released as well, because there was another one with the couple stood there with people or heads around, disembodied heads with the slug coming out of their mouths, and I can't remember if that was the UK or the US release.
I see it here, I think.
Yeah, but we're going to be we're actually going to be talking about some of our favourite movie slasher movie artwork on an upcoming show, so we should be quite a lot of fun. And what we'll do is we'll link it through to one of the websites so you can have a look at it.
Hey guys, I do have one more thing to say about Killer Party before we take out. When was the first time you saw it? Because the first time I ever saw it was on a station called TBS. It's a cable station. I saw it in 1989, I believe it was. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and what kind of drew me in was there was a background character. He looked like Scott Ian from Anthrax, and I was like, is that Scott Ian from Anthrax? And then I just kept watching the movie, and I was like, okay, that was not what I thought it was, but that was a new horror movie for me. So, I mean, can you remember the first time you saw it?
I really can't. It's one of those classic back in the mid to late 80s, or late 80s.
See, it was one of those things in America they played on like TV all the time. Like they had the USA Up All Night. They'd play movies like that.
I remember we had a
TBS would play movies like that. And they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We had some
Anyway, go ahead.
some cable movie channel that used to play kind of more or less direct to video stuff, or stuff you'd never heard of. And I remember Killer Party was one of them. And that was when I first saw it, but I think I only saw sort of half of it then. I saw the complete thing for the first time about 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah, because in the UK, we didn't, before sort of Sky and cable and all those kind of things, we didn't really have, they didn't play these kind of 80s movies on TV. I mean, I don't think, as far as I'm aware, Friday the 13th never played on terrestrial TV in the UK. I never saw it.
Part 6 did.
Did it?
Mm.
Okay.
Because I remember watching it on BBC, and there were actually a couple of different scenes from the theatrical version in it.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a scene where, the character, I can't remember the character's name, the one who gets put in jail by Tommy. The one
David
who has
Kagan, the sheriff?
No, his assistant, his deputy.
Rick.
Oh, Rick.
Rick, yeah,
Malone.
he gets locked into
Rick
jail. And then there's a scene of him screaming through the bar saying, let me out, that's not in the theatrical version. I think there's one other scene as well, I can't recall, but I do remember being kind of surprised.
I remember in the version, like on VHS or DVD, it's just like, he's like, don't do this, Megan, and then they leave, and that's all you see of him, so he's
but then there's a scene that cuts back to him in the jail, crying out to be let out, in a comedic way.
So he's actually one of the lucky ones. He got locked up, he lives.
But yeah, part 6 did play on TV. Actually, the remake was on Irish television last weekend.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's relaxed a little bit now, but I think with the video nasty debate and everything happening in the UK, that they kind of shied off from showing, films. I mean, bizarrely, I saw someone remind me of Eddie Romero, who's kind of a Filipino, I think, director, and a film called Super Beast or something from early 70s, and it showed on TV, and it actually has a real life corpse being cut open in it. And I always remember it to this day because I must have seen it it was shown on BBC One on a horror double bill. I must have seen this in the late 70s or early 80s, and they cut open this stomach and all this is blubber, and I remember thinking at the time, God, that looks really realistic. And it was, and it must have just got through the BBC didn't realise that it wasn't exactly snuff video or anything ridiculous like that, but it was actually showing a real corpse being cut up on BBC, which you're not going to have. That's not going to happen again anytime soon. But they used to do that sometimes. Actually, they had when they showed Black Christmas, they showed the version where they had like the want to lick your pretty pink cunt in on the BBC, and I remember thinking, oh, and then sort of seeing it again repeated, and that was cut out. So
I think I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think the best example of that is when Halloween 3 came out in the cinemas over here in the UK and Ireland, it was really, really badly cut. Every gore scene was cut out of it. But and that was the version we had on VHS, and I don't think it's ever been released on cut over here since, but the BBC shows a more complete print with lots of, heads being pulled off and bugs coming out of people's mouths and stuff.
Okay. Well,
see, I don't know how it is in Europe or whatever, but over here, we have the medical channel or Discovery Channel. They'll actually show real autopsies on there. But
we do get them. I mean, we had that guy. I don't know
the Channel 4 thing.
Yeah, with the German guy where he does all the we did live autopsies. I mean, you do go get stuff like that. I mean, certainly now, but back in the late 70s, early 80s, you probably wouldn't have got that on TV. But now on terrestrial TV here, you can swear and they have quite explicit sex to some degree.
It's about I think it's about tone. I mean, they're showing autopsies. It's more of a scientific thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if showing someone fucking or something, they don't want to harm kids' eyes or something like that. It's just about tone, I guess.
Well, it just kind of goes back to 1981, doesn't it? And what's the difference of what you could see on TV now and what you could you could see on TV now and what you could see back then. But no, it's interesting. Hopefully, if you're still listening, you still think it's interesting. So, but
I think it's interesting also, like the movies, like what they cut out, like Where You Live. I remember, and this, it's not a horror movie, but there was a movie, like it was a comedy, and it come on TV, one of the stations here, and of course, Joseph and I live in the Bible Belt, and there's one scene where a character, she has to like give up like a briefcase full of money to rescue her friend, like. So, like she holds the briefcase up like debating for a minute, and it's mostly played for comedy. And I remember in the actual movie, she kisses it. She goes, "Oh, there is no God," and throws it. And I remember they completely cut that scene out, and it's only because she said there is no God. Like they would not play that on TV here, which I always thought was absolutely ridiculous.
No, it's
silly.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's just coming back to what Erik said about Friday the 13th Part 6. It was obviously. What they did was it's common practice, wasn't it, with slasher movies, was to film extra scenes.
I heard that.
Was that someone's pussy squeaking? What?
No comment.
And you think I'm disgusting and vulgar?
We do.
We do. A pussy is a cat, like Mrs. Slocum's pussy.
Yeah, Mrs. Slocum is always like, talking about her pussy all the time.
Well, I just want to say. Then in that case, I went on a date Friday night and I got to stroke some pussy.
Did you? Okay.
Yes, it was fine and furry.
Was it? What was its name?
I don't remember. It was Phoenix.
Phoenix.
Phoenix the cat. Yes.
How much did it cost?
It was free.
Okay.
It kept licking my hand, actually.
I just thought maybe they charged you to stroke that cat. So, but anyway, back to Friday the 13th Part 6. Just saying that there were different TV versions, wasn't there? Because they shot extra footage. It's a bit like the footage they shot on the set of Halloween 2, didn't they? To slot into Halloween to bring the running time up, or when they cut scenes out. So it sounds as if the version you saw, Eric, may have been trimmed for violence, possibly slightly, and it was a TV version. Because again, this they're very exciting that Halloween 2 and Halloween 3 are going to be out on Blu-ray by Universal, and they will have Halloween 2 certainly is going to have some extra features, including the deleted end scene. And apparently they were talking about putting. Well, I've seen various things saying they're going to put back in the TV scenes, because I have got a composite video which somebody gave to me, or I obtained somewhere, which has got all the TV version put back into it, but the quality is pretty awful. So it would be interesting to see that, and I hope Universal do that film justice, because I'd love to see Halloween 2 in really pristine, really fantastic looking print. And the same with Killer Party as well, because I thought actually Killer Party was really nicely shot. Certainly as I was talking about those scenes where the girls are going cycling down, and I kept on looking at it and thinking, actually this is professionally shot. Bill Pruitt knew what he was doing, although apparently, and again I did read either in Going for Pieces or the They Came From Within, the Callum Van Atstall, if I pronounced his name right, book about Canadian horror movies, saying that William Pruitt really fell out quite badly with his cinematographer, or the person who set up the lighting in the film, because they spent ages and ages doing things. And I think Elaine talks about it, doesn't she, in her interview, saying that a lot of the things that you don't realise, do you, when you watch a film, the way it's cut is obviously the way you need to see it, but they're sort of saying about how they have to set up the lighting and so on somebody's face, and then they have to set it up again on the reaction of the other person they're talking to, so it's not necessarily happening all the time. And I see that even in modern films quite a lot, but when you see that over the shoulder shot, you can tell it was done slightly later, because you can just see if someone's laughing from the front. When they're shot from the back, you can tell they're not laughing, and it's mismatched, so it must be a real nightmare to try and get that all to work. But anyway, I think we've geeked out enough, haven't we? I think.
Actually, I have one more question about.
I do too, but go ahead.
Go on then.
I was just going to ask, how it was original title was April Fool's Day. Which title do you actually prefer, Killer Party or April Fool's Day?
Well, I prefer Killer Party.
Which sounds more provocative to you?
April Fool's Day would be much better if there wasn't any other April Fool's Day. I think if it come out under the title April Fool's Day in 1985, because it probably wouldn't have cleaned up, but I think it probably would have done better than it did. I think it's only because April Fool's Day was going to be used for Slaughter High, and then obviously was used for the Paramount movie. So I think if they'd used April Fool's Day, I think it'd been good. I mean, Killer Party, I don't know, maybe it has a slight better ring in America, but it doesn't do that much for me, to be honest.
It's kind of a pun here, I went to a killer party.
Yeah,
that's. I can think
we don't use that term over here, really.
No, so that's why it's kind of lost. I mean, it's obviously it's self-explanatory, but it's not. And that's why I think April Fool's Day would have been better, because the whole film was set up as endless April Fool's pranks, wasn't it? You've got like the character somehow managing to get out of the the guillotine, and then chop her fake head off. I'm not quite sure she pulled that one off, but
I'm not
she
quite
did a really
sure
good job with it.
I'm not quite sure why she did that. If she's trying to get into a fraternity and impress these people, why she sort of humiliates them by playing this prank on them.
No, absolutely.
I actually kind of thought that she did it because she really didn't think they were going to accept her, so she was just like, screw it, I'm just going to do that to them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, was there one last thing? Nathan, you said
my last thing that. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say my last thing that I was just really curious about is, the ending, which, we've already said, it ends with Vivia being in the ambulance with the possessed Phoebe at the end, and she's screaming, "Let me out." What do you guys think happened, like after that? You think she killed her?
See, See, what I wonder is, I think the ambulance attendants, the drivers, would probably turn around and tell her to shut up or see what's going on back there. I mean, she'd probably live. I mean, I don't know.
You think?
Maybe.
Well,
I've always wondered.
I wonder if they were setting out for a sequel.
Yeah, a Halloween 2 style sequel set in a hospital.
Yeah.
Direct continuation.
Ooh, with Phoebe going around, killing patients. That would
have been awesome.
That would have been good, wouldn't it? That would have been fun. But obviously with that, it kind of preempted the whole body hopping storyline they used in, was it Jason
Goes to Hell?
Jason Goes to Hell, yeah.
The Hidden, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, all of those. So it's funny, actually, as a film, it missed its chance, isn't it? Because it could have been the first April Fool's Day. It also was the film that kind of preempted those kind of body-hopping horror films that came out later in the 80s and the early 90s. So it was just like a missed opportunity all around, really, wasn't it? Which is a shame.
I mean, there's so much you could mine with sequels, with going from body to body. Like they did that again in that movie with Denzel Washington called Fallen.
Yes.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
About the Azazel hopping from body to body.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty good premise, but the Killer Party, I think, doing it in a hospital or some kind of mental ward or something would have been really neat, seeing the spirit hop from different people, and you don't know who the killer is. That'd be a pretty good idea, actually.
I think it would have been, too.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys think that the house mother was the mother to the frat guy that was killed, the one that possessed Jennifer? Because remember when earlier in the movie she's like talking to the tombstone, and she's like, "Oh, Alan, they're going to have the party here and all that." I mean, it just kind of made me wonder, like, what was her connection? Like, there's so many unanswered questions about this movie.
Yeah, which is kind of why it kind of smacks of them making it up as they go along, really, doesn't it? That kind of tonal shift throughout it. But yeah, I got the impression that she's probably the mother. Certainly Paul Bartel, and they all kind of knew. I think they probably involved with that. But I suppose, I don't know, maybe they would have been, in the original film, it would have been slightly more harder edged. And excuse me, they would have maybe explained that a bit more. But it just didn't, I mean, ultimately, Killer Party is a bit of a mess, isn't it? But it's quite an enjoyable mess. I think that's kind of my final thoughts on it.
I think it's just really going back to those characters that I liked. I mean, there's no unlikable characters, so as messy as the film is, it's just kind of endearing. It's bubbly and it's unoffensive, I think.
And it's got a fantastic Bananarama-ish pop song that I believe they play out on.
Yes.
Yeah, great song.
Do you know
These are the best days of our
who sung that? Do we know?
It doesn't say on the end credits. It just says who wrote it. It doesn't say who performed it.
Okay.
No.
Because I wanted to try and track it down myself.
And I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, should we play out on that? Close it up, guys, and we play out on the Bananarama-esque closing song. And well, thanks for joining us, and we shall catch up next time for more slasher madness. See you later.
We've been waiting for this day to come along for so long. We have finally found a place where we belong. We can't go wrong. Now we're on our own, letting our feelings show. This is our new home. We're finally letting go. And we know these are the best times of our lives. These are the best times. These are the best times of our lives. These are the best times. Everyone you meet today is on their way. They know